I got you up out of bed because you didn't do the chores like I had told you to do in the recyclables, with the recyclables in the pantry. And so I know that while you were doing it, you got really upset, and you told your mother that you felt like you're always getting lectured and you're always getting in trouble, and that it seems like you can't do anything right lately by me, and that you're just about to stop caring or feeling like you're going to stop caring soon because you're always getting in trouble. And I'm glad that you expressed that, but I want to help you see my perspective on why I feel that that's natural to feel that way, but it's not what's happening. So one example is yesterday was Friday. Can you tell me anything that I lectured you about yesterday or punished you for yesterday on Friday?
No.
But what did we do? Came home, talked about movies, talked about video games, we watched a movie, we had dinner, had the tradition, pizza movie night, told you turn everything off when you go to bed, right? So did you get criticized on anything?
No.
Okay. So I want you to know what the difference is between yesterday and when you are given a consequence or negative reinforcement, or the worst way to put it, punishment. So first of all, punishment, you already know these things. I just want to help you reason them out so that you don't listen or become victim of those irrational thoughts that maybe I'm the victim of an injustice, or maybe I'm being abused, or maybe I'm the subject of neglect or incompetence. Maybe I need to protect myself. Maybe I need to rise up. Maybe what's happening to me, the way I feel, is not right. Okay? So I want to help show you how I take everything into perspective so that you can have you could do some honest reflection and say, is that true? Am I really always getting lectured, always getting in trouble? I can't do anything right. Do I need to start rising up and rebelling? That stuff that teenagers start to go through, especially when you're under stress and you're being punished for stuff. So I want to take yesterday, for example. You didn't get in trouble. I didn't raise my voice at you. I didn't lecture you. You didn't receive any negative consequences yesterday. Because the task at hand was relax, have some family time, watch a movie, have a few laughs, have some pizza, play some video games, watch some YouTube. That was the task at hand, right? You think you were successful at it?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, you were successful at that task. So you didn't get lectured, you didn't get punished. Okay, but what was one thing you're supposed to do before you went to bed?
Do the recyclables.
And in what way, specifically?
Oh, and put the bags down on the recyclable so it's not dipping in.
Yeah, so it doesn't become an obnoxious, putrid mess that somebody's got to dig all in there, something simple. And then, this morning, where I should go down there and see that you did that daily chore to a standard, was it done?
No.
So then, what happened?
I got in trouble for
A
it.
negative consequence, yes. So what I want you to know is, before you get in trouble on anything, before I have to say, hey, you're in trouble, here's a consequence, and it's going to suck. Because punishment, it's not going to be fun. It's going to come with stress. It's going to be painful in one way or another, psychologically, or maybe through forced labor, or maybe through deprivation of things you like. It's going to suck. It's going to make you feel guilty, and it's going to make you question, hey, wait a minute, am I being punished too harshly? Am I the subject of an injustice, of incompetence, of negligence, of abuse? Do I need to start, flexing up or rebelling? And I want to give you a simple test to run through a few things to determine if that's being irrational and immature, or if you in fact need to rise up.
Okay.
So I look at it like this is the standard, right? So when I give you a standard, I'm going to make sure that you have been that you understand that this is there is a standard. I'm going to clearly explain it to you. And then I'm going to ask you if you understand the standard. And then I'm going to ask you if you have the resources. Do you have the knowledge? Do you have the skills? Do you have the money, the supplies, the time, the commitment, and the will to meet this standard? And if the answers to those things are yes, 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 then you are responsible for maintaining that standard. And then when you dip below that standard, actually, we'll say blue, that's the standard. When you dip below that standard, what do you think is going to be going on down here? Punishment, right? Mm-hmm. So what you need to ask yourself when you get punished is you need to do a checklist of things up here on whether it's right or wrong or not. And I didn't plan this or anything specifically, so I'm just going to start saying, did you understand the standard? Did you have the resources? Okay. Time, supplies, skill. Did you understand it? Did you have the resources, time, supplies, skill? And then, did you know that it would come with a punishment if you didn't do it? So yes, you knew it was going to come with a punishment. And then, after all those things are taken into consideration, which is what I tried to do for you, and in most cases, I don't know if there's a situation where I have not done that, then I get you commit, man to man, you look me in the eyes, and you say, yep, I understand the standard, I have the resources I need, and I know it's going to get me in trouble if I don't do it, and I'm looking you in the eyes and I'm making a commitment to you, I'm going to do it. I'm like, okay, wonderful, great. Let's have some fun. Let's relax. Let's, talk about movie, politics, history. Let's play some video games, watch TV, do our own thing. And we go on that baseline. And that's the standard. And you're upholding it. And that's great. Now, you slip up. You drop below the standard. First time, I'm like, Jake, remember what we talked about? Mm-hmm. And you're like, oh yeah, I remember, I'm going to do that. Okay, great, got it. First warning. Second time, you went out to Far East. And you still didn't do it, and that's when I was up to my ears in trash, and I was cleaning it because you left it all messed up in there, and I had to go in after you and clean it all. And I told you, we revisited all this, that you understood the standard, you got the resources, you knew it was going to be punishment, and you made a commitment to me not to do it. I wake up this morning, and what do I see?
It not done.
The same thing. And so when you find yourself feeling demoralized and stressed and unhappy and knocked way out of your comfort zone, and then you're going to go one of two ways. Either you're going to say that this here is all me, this guy, or it's actually the right way is it's me because I did my checklist. Did I understand the standard? Did I have the resources, time, supplies, skills, training, where I was able to ask questions? Did I know I was going to get in trouble for it? Did I make the commitment? And then you say, oh man, that's this guy. Because the punishment. I didn't hit you. I didn't call you names. I just got you out of bed early on a Sunday and said, guess how you're going to spend your Sunday morning before you go off to coach? Deep cleaning the entire pantry and trashes over there. And that sucked, and I know it did. And I know I raised my voice, and I know I wasn't pleasant to be around. So you got to ask, okay, did the punishment, was it exorbitant? Was it abusive? And I say, no. I mean, did I abuse you this morning?
No.
No. I just got you out of bed, gave you your new Saturday morning, and told you how upset and disappointed I was that you didn't follow through on that commitment. So then once you do that test, then you got to say, okay, I think, I'm the one to blame. And then you go back up here, you do that test, and you do like, I just got to get my act together. And then you won't end up there. So now the other thing to do is what somebody does with a low level of readiness and low likelihood of success is they're going to blame the authority figure. Actually, no, that should be red. They're going to blame the authority figure. They're going to blame the punisher. They're going to blame the source of the consequence. Oh, he's being mean. I'm so miserable because of that person. And if that person wasn't so mean or negligent or incompetent or unfair or emotional or irrational, then I wouldn't be in this situation. And then sometimes we don't even go through the whole checklist here because we just don't want it to be us. Because human nature is to automatically say, oh, it's somebody else, it's not me. And that's fine. But you got to overcome that. And so then once you go here, that is the authority figure, then it's going to branch off into, well, I don't care, I'm going to rebel, F the police and the authorities, and then, you just downward spiral from there. Maybe you start acting out, drinking, smoking, not doing your work, just become a total jackass, and then, next thing you know, that overall trajectory that we're talking about where, drawing a line from where you're at to where you want to be, right, which is, on par with, going to USC film school, getting, National Honor Society, high GPA, all these things you want to do and be successful as a high school freshman that leads to the ultimate goal. You start blaming the authorities and the source of your punishment, then you start saying, okay, I don't care now. Well, then you're going to drop way below this big line. And then, hello, fast food jobs, hello, entry level, maybe not even going to college at all. It ain't going to be these goals up here because you decided not to care, stemming from this thought tree of, am I the subject of an injustice, of negligence? Do I need to rebel and do all that? So what I'm urging you to do is to go through this checklist here. And then, if you turns out, oh, Dad was wrong. I didn't tell you that was the standard. Because I've gone through that many times where bosses they talk about something, they kind of, the pet project. I didn't know or understand at the time that they were telling me this is the way it's got to be from now on. Okay, I should have picked up on that. You didn't tell me, by the way. It would have been nice if you told me that was a standard, but okay. My fault, I didn't understand that was a standard. If it was my fault, you can tell me. Well, I thought that we were just talking about it. I didn't know that was like an everyday thing. Or, I don't have time to do this. And I've told you all the time that I understand you're doing a lot with sports, volunteering, studying. If you don't have time, I told you we can always negotiate that. If you don't have supplies because mother and I haven't bought it, you let us know. If you honestly don't understand how to do it and you've never done it before, I usually show you everything, and I showed you that what the standard was. And then if you're like, whoa, I never committed, I didn't close it, okay, then you could tell me and I could realize, okay, I'm to blame here. Okay, this is 50% my fault. And then guess what's not going to materialize? All this. That's not going to happen. You're not going to get punished. You're not going to have to deal with all that stress and demoralization because we're going to understand, or we're going to walk the dog here. And then I'm going to give you a chance. Okay, demonstrate, that standard baseline. And it's not until or if you drop. And then I'm never even going to give you a hard time the first and rarely the second time. I'm going to remind you, and I'm going to go back over these 4. And then on that second time, that second strike, I'm going to really start to underscore do you know that this is going to result in a punishment? Mm-hmm. And then if you say, yeah, got it, then that third time, we know where we're going to end up. And so what I'm really worried about right now is if you're tinkering with this, I don't care, I need to rebel, I need to do all that. Because this is justified sometimes. That's absolutely the way you need to go. Stand up against authority. But then there are times where that's not the way to go. And when it's time not, when it's you don't need to go that way, when then that's the wrong way to go, is when this part up here doesn't check out. So before you take that road, or before you choose to focus all that negative energy from a negative consequence or punishment on someone other than yourself, you got to walk the dog through on whether it is right to rebel and push back, or if you just need to work on yourself and recalibrate yourself and refocus on your commitments, maybe do some retraining, ask some questions. So The other thing that I know you have been getting lectured on or getting consequences about is about this line here, about this high GPA. Right now you're gunning for 3.7 to 4.0. You're going for National Honor Society. You're doing volunteering. You're trying to do everything you can to stay competitive on the line for USC. I didn't choose that for you, you did. These are goals that you committed to. So we walked the dog over here and you said this is where you want to be. So if I see that you have missing assignments, are you on the line?
No.
You're dipping down. And then I'm going to say, hey Jake, get those assignments squared away. You say, okay, I'll do it. Yeah, I got it. I come in, I check grade speed again. Hey Jake, they're still not there. They're still missing. Did you talk to your teacher? Yeah, I did. And then I quiz you and it turns out you didn't really talk to your teacher. You just kind of had a conversation, but you didn't go over the talking points and script that you practiced with me the night before to get everything fully resolved. And then boom, number 3, 2 weeks later, still missing assignment, but grade below a C. So then that's going to come with some negative reinforcement. No media tonight. No YouTube, no video games, etc. You're going to feel upset. You're going to feel stressed. Step over here. You're going to feel stressed. You might feel a little demoralized. And you're going to go through this question again, this question series. Is it my fault or do I blame the person imposing the consequence? Mm-hmm. Before you do that, make sure you walk the dog on here. Did I have everything I needed? And then did I make a commitment? And then did I uphold my end or not? And you need to know that after a couple of times of giving you a chance and re-going through this with you again, that is going to result in that negative consequence. That's not going to be fun. Now, if you came in, tomorrow and you told me, not out of immaturity, but out of sheer soul searching as deep as you can at 15 years old, that you know what, I'm not into USC anymore. I'm going to be happy with a state college, or I want to join the military, or I just want to go right into the workforce. I mean, okay, all right, let's readjust the goals and where you need to be right now. Okay, maybe a 3.0 is good enough. Is that good with you? Or you want a 2.5 or 2.0? Okay, so are you still about the national? No, I'm not doing that. Okay, well, instead of spending less time working out, I'm going to focus more on working out in sports. As long as you're getting a C average and you have a goal where you can be independent and productive after graduation, then I'm going to support you to accomplish your goals. I'm not going to be a dang, freaking trophy or whatever the hell you call the parents that set these things for. I'll encourage you and I'll expose you to it. But if you don't have one of the key criteria over here of your commitment and the resources, one of your resources is a commitment that's a resource as well, the will. If you don't have the will as a resource and you're not committed to it, then I'm always going to be setting you up for failure and you're going to live in this unfair place. And that's another place where you can say, hey, maybe, I need to rebel because I don't want to, play freaking water polo and volunteer for the Red Cross every weekend. You're making me do that. Okay, well then maybe you have a case down here to go this way. But as long as I continue to reaffirm these goals, then when you say, I'm going to go in tomorrow, talk to my teacher, and I'm going to shape this effort to bring my grade up to an A by 1 April, then I'm going to ask you the next day, did you keep your commitment? And then if you didn't, we're going to revisit, we're going to walk the dog, give you a few chances, do some more practice, and then if you are still not keeping your commitments, then yes, there's going to be a consequence. And most of the time for school stuff, it's going to be a lecture. Only when you tell me you did something and I found out you didn't actually do what you told me you did does it result in this type of punishment. Mm-hmm. Deprivation of something. Otherwise, a lecture is just, sometimes it's going through this. What you're calling a lecture is not punishment. It's, hey, let's revisit all the things and have a conversation and put a plan together to help you get back on glide path. Mm-hmm. So what I hope this does for you is I hope it helps you separate a lecture from going through the healthy and constructive process of staying on glide path with your goals or meeting standards such as common area chores A lecture is not punishment. If I'm lecturing you, if I'm giving you something that you characterize as a lecture, I want, step over here please. I want you to know that it's not, let me make myself feel good. Let me blow off steam and hot air because it makes me feel better or it's miserable to you. If you feel it's not doing these things, then contribute to the conversation so that it is accomplishing, this whole checklist of standards, setting standards, evaluating resources, making a commitment, you being part of the plan. If you feel a lecture is not productive, then contribute, and I make a commitment to you that I'm going to be rational and receptive to put this process together for you. Make no mistake though, but once we set that standard, what's going to happen if you deviate, if you drop from it?
Punishment.
Not necessarily.
Well,
that's not the first
a
phase.
negative something, or a negative repercussion, I would say, or negative reinforcement.
I think a consequence
is
probably the most accurate and general way to put it. There's going to be a consequence. Sometimes the consequence is we're just going to have to revisit this whole cycle of what went wrong, what was supposed to happen, what did happen, and what was responsible for the difference. Was it because you truly genuinely slacked off, or maybe you didn't understand what we're going to do, or maybe we didn't, practice something first? So we're going to look at first what was supposed to happen, then what happened, and what's the difference between the two? How can we resolve that and go out and be forward thinking, and then resolve that gap on try two? And then when try two doesn't happen, we're going to do the same thing, but we're going to focus more on, hey, punishment is coming next.
Mm-hmm.
So I think maybe you've just been perceiving it as punishment, punishment, punishment. No, I want you to know, number one is, hey, let's revisit this whole process. Did we get our freaking macros right? And then number two is, okay, still didn't have, let's revisit our macros and our plan again. And now let's emphasize that next time there's going to be a punishment coming. And on a third time. So by that time, if we're keeping this process, then I would highly recommend that you stay focused on yourself and what you need to do versus taking this track of, hey, let's rebel and not care anymore. Because you start taking that track and then, you can forget about all the lofty goals that you have up here. And I know you don't want to be there. If you really genuinely feel like you do, well, then let's talk about that, because I don't want to hold you accountable to this standard if you're not all in on it. What are your thoughts?
Looking back on it, I realized that, the punishment was justified. There's no argument for it. You told me to do something and I didn't, but I didn't get upset about that. I got upset more of that. I've just been upset in general recently, just because there's been so much stuff that I didn't like happening, like, all the grades, all the stuff that they kind of all plummeted at once, and throwing my shoulder out and having back and shoulder pain really destroyed my weeks after I came back from Far East. That just killed me, mentally. And then I was in an upset frame of mind, and then I have all this Miss Austinson homework piled on. That gets me in an upset state of mind, and then I'm just getting upset. So it's the thing is that I won't acknowledge that I'm upset because I want to accomplish something, or maybe I don't want to be distracted by it, so I'll push it down and I won't acknowledge it, which I think is a downfall. And then what will happen is I'll get into something that usually I would just be like, oh yeah, that was deserved, that was justified, and then I'll completely blow up because it's like a bubble and it's just barely tipping over the top, and I'm just finished. And I think what it needs to be is I need to acknowledge myself and what I'm doing wrong and what I need to do more, rather than just not acknowledging anything and just moving on with the daily, or else I'm just going to keep blowing up. And then eventually I could push so much stuff down, I could get so upset that I could get myself in real trouble. So I just need to go through that, and I just need to understand, and I just need to focus on me and just, acknowledge everything I'm doing, and just,
That's a good point, that, everything just kind of compounds and comes to a head, when you're exposed to stress. And then all of a sudden, this whole spider web of feelings start going off, and now you're in trouble for not doing your chore, but now it's about your shoulder. and how you're injured and how you can't train. So I think that's just part of the human experience and the traps that we set for ourselves. Is we start going into crisis mode and we want a distraction, and all these other feelings start firing at the same time, and that's definitely going to continue to happen. And it's fair, and I understand why you were so upset. Now, if you're telling me that all of a sudden we go from punishment to you're dealing with everything, you're dealing with school, grades, you're dealing with freaking your GPA stuff, your injury, okay, that's all firing at the same time. And so then what I want to try to help you to do is to use techniques to get control of that and say, okay, I really feel upset right now. I'm about to be out of control. I might get in trouble. To say, okay, but what is the issue at hand right now? Was this a school thing? That's why I always try to tackle one thing at a time with you. If we're talking grades, we're talking grades. If we're talking chores, we're talking chores. If we're talking other behavior, or try to keep it specific to what's going on at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you're able to do that through this process, so okay, this is about chores, let's run through the chore checklist. And then if it's about grades, let's run through the grade checklist. I mean, you know I'm at war right now with your freaking principal about them changing the GPA without announcing it, and with them going off the standard of all the other local schools. So I mean, we're doing a lot of what we can right now to get a fair shake on that. Your teachers are helping you out. So just start to go through the checklist, look at one thing at a time, and then start to ask yourself these questions. You know, are you taking a healthy and systematic and constructive approach to the obstacles with each one of your stressors? Are you fleshing out the opportunities and taking advantage of them? And if you're just doing the best that you can, once you line all that out, okay, I see the obstacles, here's how I'm approaching, I see the opportunities, I'm taking them. And something like an injury, you're just going to have to be graceful at it. Say, okay, is it time to do my physical therapy, which it is. So now, have you pulled out your phone and started looking at the physical therapy exercises?
No.
Okay, well, getting injured is just one of those things, parts of life. And so now you took your time off, and now you're going to start doing the exercises. So you got to start looking at what can I do right now, dealing with really compartmentalizing your stressors, and then say, okay, what do I need to do to confront the obstacles and challenges of each? How can I get help? How can I work through this? Where are there opportunities to move forward and resolve this? And then am I taking ownership and advantage of them? And then you do that own self-assessment. And then you just got to be graceful with it and stay on that path, and you've got a new baseline for each. And then enjoy the downtime that you get. Because you know, well, let me say, I feel like you get a lot of couch time. Do you feel the same?
Yes.
A lot of couch time, games, movies, Netflix, going to a movie tonight. Okay, so those need to be opportunity, or those are about recharging. Okay, you're recharging and building yourself back up so that you can handle more stress. So yes, you're in a elevated level of stress. Then you come down and relax, like yesterday. No lecturing, no consequences, relaxing. And then boom, you got today comes, doing some studying, going over your agenda, volunteering, getting in trouble a bit. Okay, now you went through this healthy system of dealing with the stress, right? And then you bring it down, go to the movies with your friends, relax, recover. Now what sucks is if you stay at this spike level, if you just stay at that level all the way, you're gonna burn out and you're gonna end up some freaking, meth head, or completely off the rails of your goals because you're not getting that time to rest, recover, recuperate, grow back stronger, and be able to handle more stress. So what I can tell you is that the good news story is there is I know you're getting lots of couch time. And I know you're getting lots of times and days where I don't tell you anything. And I I probably shouldn't tell you this because now I'm giving you a little bit of my playbook. I specifically plug in days to no matter what's going on, I'm going to give you that downtime. And hopefully that doesn't, you're not going to like try to strategize to take advantage of that. But maybe it'll give you some consolation to know that there are times where I'm looking not to mess with you at all. Yesterday was one of them. I mean, you did pretty good. I told you what the task was. The task last night, and the standard was to relax and just enjoy being home. And so you were successful at that task. So I set you up for success. And there were times where I specifically build that in. And there are times where I even drop down here, like, hey, I know your room looks like absolute hot garbage, and you know what? I don't say anything to you because I know you were up here. I know you were stressed at the highest level that week, so I'll go past your room and it'll be an absolute atrocious nightmare, and I'll see things that I've told you about 3 or 4 times. But I lower the standard down here so that you can get that rest and recovery time, so that you can recuperate, get back on the baseline, and start to experience higher levels of stress. So I am looking out for you. If you do get a punishment or what you feel is a lecture, it's going to be about doing this process so that you can be successful at those tasks. And you're getting a pretty steady level of recovery, and then I'm even building in extra levels of recovery to help you, deal with the stress in a healthy and way that's going to help you grow. Now, if you feel that you need a little bit more of this sometimes, be proactive and have a discussion about this. Because I've taken the initiative to build this in for you. You've never asked me about this. Kind of, hey, can I drop below baseline and kind of get over on a few things? Maybe sometimes, maybe not. But I'm going to continue to build that in for you. And if I see you're stressing out, I'm going to make sure you're coming down and resting and recovering. But when those spikes happen, and those spikes will continue to happen the rest of your life, I want you to know that there's a healthy and a systematic way to go about it.
Okay.
Anything else? Ideas? Okay. So just do some reflection on that, please. Do some reflection, and then if you have more thoughts on it, talk to me about it. And next time when we're having a discussion, know that that's not a one-way conversation.
Okay.
All right. So if you gotta take a taxi home today, here's soon. Mother gave you money?
Well, she gave me money for the movie, which I think is enough, but she only have 7,001. I don't know if that'll be enough.
No, just keep this in case, and then, for the movies and stuff.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, so yeah, we'll get you there. You're just gonna have to take a taxi home, okay? Text us when you
Okay.
get home.
I would like to thank my parents who support me in a way that still feels like inquantifiable.